Satelytics is a software company that focuses on geospatial analytics. A unique set of data, the infrared spectra, is where the software operates to identify constituents and in many cases measure it. The data is obtained by the light of the sun shining its rays on the Earth's surface or bodies of water, and what reflects back to a sensor, typically on board a satellite, but could also be on board a drone, a fixed-wing aircraft, a camera, or indeed a stratospheric balloon. The Satelytics software is able to identify the constituent or a corroborating factor or indeed a surrogate, as we don't see below surface, and in many instances quantify it. One huge area that we lead the world in is in greenhouse gas reduction, and specifically looking at methane and its quantification. The unique spectral signature of methane appears in what's called the shortwave infrared, SWIR as it's more commonly known. We're using data to not only identify methane, but also quantify it in parts per million, and more latterly as flow and flux rates. Here are some examples. I've logged on to the Satelytics software using two-factor authentication, and I've got a pull right menu at the top of the screen which gives me some outline of the projects and capabilities of the algorithms. And I want to stay focused in on methane detection. So I'm going to look at two particular examples. In this particular case, you can see an area that we're looking at for methane. I'm going to pick a particular set of assets. So I'm going to pick leaking pad 19. And what comes into view as I zoom into the area is the methane that is escaping from this particular set of infrastructure. Now, as with many of the other satellite algorithms, you can see there's a color coding, and this relates to how much methane is being measured in this particular location. I'm going to close that for a second. We see to a low of 10 parts per million, and of course I can click on any of the areas to pick out the value of the methane at the pixel level, which in this case is a very high resolution of 3.7 meters by 3.7 meters. Again, a world first for Satelytics.
This is Satelytics methane detection view, which is showing us on September 7th, 2021. These are methane plumes, and you can see by the red alerts here versus the orange. These are the high methane plume alerts, and we can see that here, along with the flow rates, the max concentration, wind speed, lat longs for these. And you can see there are a number of these occurring on the same day. And so that's the data that we want to feed to OpenAI. So taking the data that we got from Satelytics, that is from the view of where we're looking at methane leaks, and looking at them, each leak, looking at the metrics for that. In other words, in this case, we have a high, indicator of a high leak. It's active. We have the flow rate, the max concentration, the wind direction, the wind speed, lat and long, and the date. And the following constraints. We have, we're basically telling OpenAI we've got 3 emergency repair vehicles and 3 crews of 6 people. They have to arrive at the gas leak when we get an indication of high within 30 minutes of the detection. A leak takes approximately 2 hours to repair on average. And if we take all of this using, the indicator, the flow rate, establish what priority in the repair sequence based on these IDs. Now, we only have a few of these, but in reality, we might have dozens of these, just happen by random. So let's take a look at that. So submitting that into OpenAI. OpenAI looks at that data, and it comes back and says, hey, based on the constraints you've given me, prioritizing these repairs, this would be the sequence that I would follow, right? And you can see that it's looking at that, the basic flow rate and prioritizing by that. And it's saying, for these, here's the repair sequence for these crews, right? And basically ensures that, all the high priority leaks get addressed within 30 minutes of detection, right? And allocates the other ones out to the other crews. We could take this a couple steps further. So the other things that we could do here is say, using these, create this work plan and distribute the task to be completed in a single day. And we kind of saw that here, but it can go a little further. So let's take a look at this. If I'm going to hand this out to a set of crew members and say, here's what you need to go do, and here's when we expect you to be finished, right? This just gives us an idea, breaks this problem down a little bit further. And then finally, let's take a look at what if we ask it to provide the optimal routes for each crew based upon the lat long and taking time into account here for this problem.